Hello everybody, welcome to South Olympic Branch update number 14. Well, today we're going to start by talking about the floor of the engine shop and our engine house. And there's a couple different things I've done with that since I last talked about this. One is I've been working on some styrene to cover the general part of the floor and to look like cement. So my friend Jim gave me some styrene that was just some scrap or whatever he had left over. And I don't think this stuff is quite the same styrene that I'm used to working with. It seems to be a little softer than the regular stuff. It's interesting, but it's not working too bad. So in order to make that look like cement, I tried using Rust-Oleum Stone Gray and painting this, and that's supposed to be a satin finish, but it's way too shiny for what I wanted to do. I happen to have some clear matte Rust-Oleum, so tried doing the clear matte over the top of that, and that did not actually fix the issue as well as I would have hoped. Then I thought, you know what, I want to do something a little bit different. So I took my utility knife and I scored it, as you can see, to kind of make it, give it some pour lines for the concrete. And then I went over it with the Tamiya AS11 medium sea gray that I've talked about a little bit in the last video. And I like the result of that. So my next steps in this will be to cut it out so that it fits around the engine servicing pit, and also to add another layer of this stuff underneath it so it's tall enough to be closer to level with the track. So I lightly sprayed the Pico inspection kit that I talked about a few videos ago with the AS11, and I also painted the rails for it, the Vallejo mahogany. And this is a bit of the floor. You can see that matches pretty well with that inspection pit. Now I know there's some serious striking color difference in there. When I put the building on top of it, that won't be all that visible. So far, I've only got 3 things installed in this power distribution block: the turntable and a couple of lights. We're gonna take a minute and take a look at how the lighting effects are working. So just a couple of lamps that are installed here. The one on the building is a Walthers lamp, and the one on the left is another Walthers lamp. These are just 12 volts. The instructions for the parking lamp say to drill the hole 11/32. I think 23/64, which is a little bit bigger, would be a better way to go. That 11/32 hole is just a little too tight. Sometimes you do one thing, like start working on a shop floor, and it just tells you how much more you need to do with other details on the building. Like, for example, this needs an interior, and I do have a light in there, but it's not hooked up. And I'll have to do some figuring on how I want the approach tracks to look. I've assembled one of the doors there, and I think I've decided that for the purposes of modeling, I'll have one door open and one door closed on this model. So I just need to take that back off and paint it, which I need to do that to the vents on the side, and add yet more details to this building. I also painted the main gutter on the building, so now it's white. I tried on the backside to actually mask off before I painted it, and I discovered that the masking just wants to take the paint that's on the building off the building, so I had to do it freehand Took me a little more time, but I think it looks okay for gutters. I did some work with some really thin gray on the door, the big door, and those side vents. And I'm not too sure I'm happy with it, although I think it looks a little better in person versus the camera. So I'll probably revisit that and maybe even paint it more gray at some point. I've also attached those motorized vents to the top of the structure, and I'll be waiting for the paint or the glue to dry on that so I can come back and touch some paint on that and make it look like it's really sealed to the roof. Well, I still got a lot of other details to do in this building, like I need to work on the doors and the vents, but I'm calling the roof project done for now. I've got the kind of rust pattern on there that I was looking for and vents on there that I was looking for. So that, I think that looks pretty good. I may revisit that later, but for now, I think it looks good. To make those rusty areas on the roof, I used some autumn brown paint with one of these foam brushes that was kind of cut off in a square to make sort of an uneven stamp. I think the effect worked out. Next part of the turntable project, I've cut a little notch in the benchwork up here, and I'm going to mount some drawer slides up there. I've got some pieces that I'm going to put on this side to hold them down underneath the layout. And the idea is that to make like almost a bread drawer slide out for the Walther's control panel here. And hopefully I'll have enough room to put a couple of switches in there for some other controls that we'll talk about later. Probably be turnout controls for the yard, or maybe I might even put some power switches in there for to turn off the tracks that come off of the turntable. So now I've got some material in there to hold the right rail. And I've cut some holes in that, or drilled some holes in that, so that when I want to run some wiring through there, I can. The stuff on the drawer shouldn't stick up too much, so I should be able to get wires to clear it pretty easy. Should be. We'll see, I guess. So in order to make the rear wheels of the drawer fit through, I had to notch it on this side. On this side over here, I could get away with just putting it in there and then angling the drawer. Only got a couple of screws in there while I test this. I can come back and make it sturdy later, although it's actually solid enough, probably. So, not a very pretty hole, but it doesn't have to be. This little control panel's got flanges on it. Then we're gonna go up here, slide that in one side like that, flip it over to the side, push the drawer in. You guys can see that. And we've got a turnout control in a drawer. Now I said turnout, but I meant turntable control box. So, and I don't want that wire to be just hanging there. So I've already put a little cable clamp on the edge of the drawer. And to try to reduce that strain as much as possible, I'm also going to put one up underneath the layout there. And until I can find a better way, that's what it's going to be. And there it is in my not very pretty, but pretty functional drawer. So mainly, I wanted to make sure that I had this thing in a place where it was out of the way, because up until today, it's sort of been sitting on the layout or below the layout on the next level down. So, thinking about the next steps with the locomotive engine service facility at the Elma yard, this is the inside of that building. Pretty ugly, right? Pretty plain, really. And so I did have a light in here, as you can see. In the process of moving from the condo to here, the wires got, got disconnected. But you can see the outside of the roof is blue, right? The inside's blue, the whole thing is blue. I think the roof would have been white. So I'm probably gonna end up masking that off and painting it. And then the inside, I'm gonna need to do something with. It doesn't need to be dramatic, but it needs to be something. I'm thinking maybe some 005 styrene could cover the inside of the inside walls in blue and go over all these little outlines in here where the where additional doors and windows could be cut, but currently aren't. And that would help this building out quite a bit. One single layer of 0.005 styrene on that wall and cut out around the windows and doors, and I think that looks a whole heck of a lot better. There's a better view of the plain white wall on the inside. I'll probably do the back wall, but this wall up here is the one that's, you know, facing the side that's visible right now, so I probably won't need to do anything with that one. I'm taping over the outside of the building right now because I'm going to try to paint the roof. All taped up and ready to go. I'm just waiting for some gap filling CA to finish setting up on the roof there, and then it'll be time for paint. I decided to cut a piece out for the back wall since you might be able to see it when you look in the building. I'm cheating. I'm not gonna fill that wall in. At least I don't think I will. I'm gonna see what happens when I get it on the layout with this setup. So I painted the roof, as you can see. Something I think I forgot to mention before is that when I'm doing a large kind of straight across thing like this, I like to kind of rock back and forth like I'm a metronome. It keeps the airbrush more even with the thing I'm painting. Finished removing the masking, and there's a couple of spots where the paint got behind the masking, and I'll just kind of scrape those off since that blue is a solid product. And then I think it looks pretty good. I like it a lot better now. And you can actually see that back wall a little bit. The paint I used for this was Vallejo Ivory Primer. That is 70.643 is what Vallejo calls that. Just get a shot of the bottle there real quick. Well, I keep thinking of more cool things to do with the locomotive house behind me, like adding roof vents and interior details that you'll be able to see. And of course, there was already the lighting that I was going to do. Those are some things I'll have to add to an upcoming video. For now, this is going to be it for episode number 14. Hope you guys stay safe out there. For those of you in the Pacific Northwest, try to enjoy the hot summer weather that we're already having this year. And I'll chat with you soon.